Hey y'all, welcome to this weekend's show. We're talking all new 2022 TVs, compare them to what we think are maybe last year's TVs, what's improved. Brandon's going to join me shortly. He's running a little late, but you know what? There's so much material to cover, so I can't wait to get started. So this is a list of all the 2022 TVs that are of interest to me. It's not all of them, but it's everything that I think is worth looking at over $1,500. What you're going to see is a few cool things this year that I'm pretty excited about. So real quick summary, new for 2022. And then when I say new, a completely new technology. And you guys know we've been excited about this for almost 2 years now. QD OLED, quantum dot OLED. All new technology. It is not the normal OLED that you guys are used to for the last several years from LG. This is produced by Samsung Display, and it puts the quantum dots in front. It is the color converting layer. It is not the same color filter as LG uses. It will be brighter than a typical LG OLED across the board. And there are only two models this year that has this. It's the Sony A95K and the Samsung QS95B. Not much detail on the Samsung. We just know that's the model number. No real pricing on it, but I'm going to assume it's close to the Sony at around 4,000, maybe a little less, possibly a little more, but definitely around 4,000. There's a super chat already. Thanks, Matthew, for that. I see Value Electronics has a listing for the Samsung QS95B QD OLED. Yep. How do you think it will fare compared to the Sony A95K, and why do you think there isn't a lot of information on it? So this is an excellent question. Two things to unpack. First, why isn't there a lot of information on it? It's because Samsung didn't want to release it. As a matter of fact, they hid it during CES, right? The minute that Samsung found out that this TV won like best of show or whatever it was, they made it disappear. And none of the journalists, none of the influencers, none of the bloggers were able to even see this exact model. What they saw instead was Samsung Display's prototype, but not a real working TV, right? It was put on vivid mode or whatever. It actually belongs to Samsung Display. The actual model, this one, for whatever reason, Samsung is holding this model back from any information other than what Robert has. So we'll ask Robert now. How do I think it will compare the Samsung QS? I think Sony TVs definitely are cinema color accurate TVs. The question is whether the Samsung QS95B will be a gaming machine. Sony, focus always, color accuracy, motion, upscaling, right? All the basics. I expect, this is pure speculation on my part, but Samsung makes gaming monitors. This TV would be perfect because Samsung has had VRR working. They have their own system on a chip. I believe they will have more features, maybe gaming features. Sony has VRR working as well. So the question is, will Samsung push gaming a little bit harder with this TV? I hope so. I hope it's a completely different TV because if you want to watch movies, you already have the Sony. Now, improved for 2022. So these are TVs that are better, not all new, because these technologies existed before, but maybe they're better baked this year. So we have new mini LED models. Sony X95K is Sony's latest 4K LCD TV. It is their best 4K LCD TV. X95K has what they call Backlight Master Drive. A lot of you are excited about that, but it is not exactly the same technology that was introduced way back when, a few years ago. It is basically their mini LED implementation with a whole lot more dimming zones. We expect around 300 dimming zones or so in the 65-inch size, and then it goes up from there. Then we have the Hisense U8H. That's their most affordable 4K LCD mini LED TV from Hisense, also their first introductory mini LED TV. And then we have the TCL 8 series. That's their new flagship mini LED from TCL. So that's all of the new mini LEDs. Of course, you have the current carryover mini LEDs from other brands like LG, the QNED series, and Samsung's Neo QLED. Mini LED last year carries over this year. We have a new heatsink OLED model. That is the LG G2. It joins the Sony A90J. So now we have two heatsink OLED TVs. Heatsinks make OLED TVs get a little bit brighter, and it disperses heat better. So everything is just a touch brighter. Now, I'm excited about this one. OLED Gaming AI. So many of you complain, I can't get an OLED because of burn-in. Starting this year in 2022, LG display on all of its OLED panels sold to Panasonic, LG Electronics, and Sony, and hopefully Samsung, if they can get their act together. All these OLED panels will have the new EX technology, which is an AI predictive algorithm. They will know when you're gaming. So if you're using your TV and you're gaming HDR and you're doing all the things that you're afraid would cause burn-in, the panel will recognize that and automatically adjust for it. So your TV will not get too bright. You don't have to worry about dimming it. It will dim itself. But if you're only watching movies, HDR movies, it doesn't matter, Netflix, whatever, it will let your TV get a bit brighter because it knows you're not gaming, so you're watching mixed content. It will push your TV a little bit harder. This gives gamers a chance to do whatever they want. I don't want to say abuse the TV, but just game as you normally will. And the panel will know you're gaming, and they will take that into account. I think this is a game changer because Sony TVs will get this, as well as LG and any other 2022 TV. Now, LG recently announced that they will be selling a new series of TVs that will have possibly the older panel. I don't know. And it appears that this recent article suggests that the CS panel will be using LG Display's EX OLED panel with that AI we talked about. It just won't have the EVO technology, which is more about brightness and thermal efficiency, so that's a good thing. And I don't know if this will apply to the A90J or the A80J that are still around in 2022. So I have to say, play it safe. If you want gaming AI on your OLED, get the definite 2022 models. Oh, we got some super chats here. Hey, Gio, thank you for that. Thinking about getting my first OLED 77-inch C2. It'll be 3,500 pounds in the UK. Do you expect a big upgrade on the C1, or do you foresee any potential issues? So this is a great segue. Gaming OLEDs for all. The C2 versus the A80K, which gets to you, Geo1741. We're talking about the LG C2. Okay, so let's look at this right now. What do we have here? This is everything priced above 1,500 up to 3,000. So I'm going to keep the price under 3,000 just to fit this graph in here. I want to focus on the LG C2 to answer Gio's question. So if you look at the C2, you have competitors in that space, right? Okay, the C2, if you notice, is 2,500. The C1 is currently 1,800 in the US. Now, I don't know if the price difference in the UK is similar, but that's about a $700 spread. And if you give it a few months, the C2 will probably drop $100 or $200. And then by Prime Day, maybe another $100 or $200, ultimately ending in where the C1 was in the summer of last year. What is the improvement to the C2? So we talked about the AI, right? The gaming AI. You didn't mention whether or not you game on it. The big improvement for the C2, I believe, is for gamers. With that gaming AI, you could do whatever you want. It knows you're gaming. It will then adjust accordingly. Now, before that, it's not to say that LG didn't have it. Its technology was more of a per pixel adjustment. Each pixel was monitored, hardwired to some chip. And so they were trying to measure it on a per pixel basis. This is using AI. They removed all those wires and they're looking at your usage overall. And they're trying to predict where on the TV is this happening? Is this brightness happening? This saves a whole lot of space on the TV. It gets to be a little bit thinner. It saves a lot of energy. And they believe that it's more effective. So they're implementing it. Whether this affects you, Gio, depends on what you're using this TV for. If you're using it for gaming and you want the brightest gaming possible, then the C2 will give you that. But if you're just watching movies and streaming, the C2 may be a little bit brighter because it really is the G series, I guess the G1 from last year. So the C2 benefits from that same G1 panel, the EVO panel last year, so it could be pushed a little bit harder. It's not necessarily a better TV in that respect, maybe just a little bit brighter. So if that's something that's important to you, go for it, but it's not per se, oh, this is an amazingly better TV. Because if you look at the 75-inch or the 77-inch, you notice that the C1 is 2,900. The C2 is not even in here because it's much more expensive in the 77-inch size. Let me jump to that real quick. At the 77-inch size, the C2 is 3,500, right? So 3,500 versus 2,900. That's about a $600 spread. It's actually pretty close. I'd actually go with the C2 if you're willing to wait. If you get it today, go with the C1 because I don't think it's worth that price difference. But if you're willing to wait until Prime Day, it'll probably settle down prices, and it may even be around $3,000. At that point, $3,000, $3,100, that $200 difference isn't a big deal. So it definitely depends on how long you're willing to wait for that C2. Hey, Imran Kabir, thank you for the super chat. Hi, guys. I recently bought an LG SP11RA 7.1.4 system to go with my LG C9. That is an OG. I am experiencing lag on my Xbox Series X with low Atmos gaming. Did you experience it? So if you're going through and it's not just the LG. Going through eARC and gaming on your OLED, whether it's the Sony or the LG, this is an issue. The Sony has an issue in 4K 120 mode right now, is people are getting dropped audio. Unfortunately, so my suggestion is don't run audio through your TV. Connect audio separately, directly from your Series X. If you go through your TV, you're going to have eARC issues. Let me know if that's what you're doing. If you're connecting the Series X directly to your soundbar or your system, this shouldn't be an issue. Jumping back into our list here real quick. This is exciting because I wanted to go over a few things that many of you want to talk about. The flagship pricing. So here are your best TVs in this size and price range. The Sony X95K, surprisingly, is the most expensive 65-inch TV out there, and the A90J is just a little bit more with its heatsink at $3,000. So the Sony X95K at $2,800, yes, it's MSRP, and it should go down at some point, but still, this is a few $100 more than the QN900B at $2,500, the LG C2 at $2,500, and the A80K, Sony's own OLED, at $2,300, which is a surprise. Normally, Sony prices its A80K or A80 series a little bit higher than C2, but I think this year they're just going to be aggressive, right? So the X95K at $2,800, when you see this, Brandon, does this make you lose interest, or do you think that Sony can make up the difference? I mean, it's awesome enough that this is not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. It's only a few $100 more.
I just watched Caleb's review of the X95K last night. It sounds like he was a little bit less than stoked about the 300 zones, but it still performed pretty good. So I think it's going to be I don't know. It's tough. I don't know if I'd pay more for it. I was hoping the Samsung QN900B would be it's probably more or less the same as last year's, but maybe they quality control a little better. I don't know. Or maybe they've worked on the highlights a little better, but it's going to just be one of those things where probably the Samsung is just a little better in the dark room, and in a bright room, it's probably pick your favorite TV, maybe, know. And I think it should be closer. I think I said that the X95J last year I was pretty impressed with it, but there were a couple things I wasn't super stoked about, and it was the darkroom performance and kind of the blooming. But 300 zones definitely better than 60, and if you like Sony more than Samsung, Dolby Vision, all that, I don't know. It's tough to pay $300 more though, because they're both probably going to be extremely good TVs.
I'm personally excited about the Sony X95K. I didn't realize they would price it so high, so that's my beef. If this was a Master Series, but being $300 off the block, higher than the Samsung QN900B. Now, maybe it'll drop it once it hits the street, and they'll be the same. And here's the thing. At this price, I'd be recommending the $2,300 Sony A80K. I mean, if this is your price range, the Sony A80K, other than you need that brightness, but moderately lit room, that Sony A80K is going to look amazing. But here's what I think is going to be a big winner. It's the $2,000 QN85B. Because this year, I believe they're going back to the VA panel. So now, this is the Samsung number 2 TV. Remember when the Q90R was really good and the Q80R was really close? Yeah, the Q9FN and the Q8FN was really close. They're doing it again with the Q90B, and the Q85B is really close, but it's $2,000. I'm going to keep my eye on the Q85B because I believe that this, if it ends up being the VA, like everyone thinks it is, because the specs look like a VA specs with that HDR that's higher than last year's QN85A. This could be a great one. And the TCL 8 series, similarly priced around $2,000. This is going to be a winner, I think, by the time Black Friday hits. This QN85B will probably be closer to 1600. That is pretty cool. But let's not forget about the X90K. So the Sony X90K, here's something that not many of you probably know. We're hearing that the X90K may have even more dimming zones than last year's X95J and no ultra wide viewing angle. Now, to Sony, that's a gimp. They're going, oh, you know what? We're going to save money. We're going to throw out the ultra wide viewing angle. But little do they know, Sony fans have been asking them to get rid of it. So now your contrast will be a little bit better if you're in direct view, right? So if you're sitting in front of the TV, the X90K will end up looking better than the X95J, assuming that's what they're doing. So the two assumptions are they're not going to have the ultra wide anymore, and it'll have more dimming zones, so it can get even brighter than the X95J. So this is going to be pretty exciting. The X90K is going to end up being a value leader, and I don't know, it may even beat up on the Hisense and TCL 6 series. So I'm pretty excited to see how that goes for sure. Oh, wait, here. We have some inside information from India, guys. Normally our leaks come from China, but Sean Colin, thank you again for joining us. He's saying the 2022 8K Samsung QN900B versus the Sony 8K Z9K. They're both in India, and Samsung and Sony are training their people, right? The retailers and so forth. The feedback from people who've seen both is that the QN900B has increased its brightness, and its HDR is possibly better than the Z9K if it is to be believed. Fighting words, Sean. Fighting words.
I mean, listen, I was already ready to buy the QN900B. Rainer keeps telling me, like, get it, just get it, trust me. And I'm not like Dolby Vision doesn't like kill me. It's more about the dirty screen effect for me. Like, I just don't want to get a big ass TV like that and have like bad.
Does the 144 hertz, as in Samsung's QN900B, make a difference with watching fast-paced sports, fast action movie scenes, or it's just for gamers? I believe it's just for gamers. It shouldn't make a difference with anything else because really it's to get, I guess, that action and that increased frame rate, and hopefully VRR extends that much. But right now it's in theory. We don't even know what the implementation is. Samsung has had FreeSync Premium for a few years now, and the first 2 years out the door, it was not good. It took a couple of updates before it was adequate. So with 144 hertz, I think it'll take a few updates before they know what to do with it. But I'm hoping it might help movies, but I don't expect it will. But you never know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so quick super chat from Steven Katsenos. Any info on the Sony A80K? Will it be better than the C2 brightness-wise and details? So the A80K will be slightly cheaper than the C2 at launch, which is surprising. Normally, that's not the case. The A80K and the C2 will both be using the new LG Display EX panel, which means you can game on it, and it will adjust its brightness to prevent burn-in, and both will be a little bit brighter than last year because they share the G1's Evo technology now, or they share the latest OLED panel. Sony doesn't call it Evo, but the C2 will be pushed a little bit brighter than the C1. Whether the A80K will be brighter than C2 depends. Normally, Sony is not brighter than LG, normally. Now, will this year change? We don't know, but you're not going to notice the brightest difference. So I have to emphasize that, Stephen. Unless you have the TV side by side, any brightness difference is very subtle. We're talking maybe 50 nits at between 600 and 700 nits. You're not going to notice the difference between 600 and 650 or 650 and 700. And this, we're talking peak specular highlights. The only issue with the A80J last year was it had more aggressive automatic brightness limiter, dims it a little bit, whereas the C series, you could make it push harder. However, with the new AI, it will allow the Sony to push a little bit brighter and make the automatic brightness limiter less aggressive. So we're hoping that it'll be very similar. I think you choose the one where you enjoy the brand's priorities. Sony's priority is out-of-the-box color accuracy. You're done. LG's priority is you plug it into any gaming system, console, it's going to work better than any other TV on the market. So if you're a gamer, get the LG. If you're not a gamer, I say get the A80K because your upscaling and motion generally will be better than anybody else out there.
There's a question that I saw. I thought it was pretty good. What do you guys think about the 42-inch C2? Do you think it's going to be less brighter than bigger sizes?
So good question. So let's talk about this 42-inch. Smaller OLEDs can never get as bright. It doesn't matter if you push it hard. The fact that it's a smaller OLED, it will not look bright. So they're not
Yeah.
going to push it. But you take that same brightness and you put it on 77 inches, it just looks brighter. So that's why they're pushing these additional nits on their larger TV. Because when you get an extra 50 nits on a 77 inch or 100 inch, you see it. On a 48 inch, it doesn't make a big difference. And so I think LG, rather than waste money on pushing that extra few nits on a small TV, they're saying, look, it's an OLED. You buy an OLED for blacks. For brightness, go large. Shango, thank you for that very generous super chat, my friend. Gentlemen, I can't wait to see your reviews on the A95K and the G2. I'm so excited about that head-to-head. I'm super excited about the A95K, but we'll wait until an 83-inch version comes out. This is total FOMO before considering one. Do you think it would be in 2023 or late 2022? Okay, so Shango, let me ask you this. Do you think the 77-inch will come out first? Because I think they're going to put the 77-inch before the 83. I mean, that's my guess. Otherwise, there's not enough production capacity right now at Samsung. Samsung Display is currently testing the waters with the Sony release. If Sony sells out, they're going to then increase capacity for more 5565. We suspect if they do at 75, definitely it'll be sometime in 2023, which means maybe a 2024 model. However, if it's 83-inch, they would have to put it in place at the end of this year. They would have to start retooling because an 83-inch TV is they're going to have to.
They're going to sell out.
Oh, hey, Brian, we had a question specifically for you. So we were asking the 100-inch, the 98-inch that you saw, the Sony X92J and the Samsung QN900B. On your video, you mentioned that maybe the X92J was a little bit better. You preferred something, but I spoke to you personally. I thought you definitely liked the QN90A better. Let us know, which one do you like better and what was the use case you saw? What would be your preference?
FOMO, as you always know, Sony, if you're looking for that accurate shadow detail, that image, then the Sony did that better. But in the video and the way you and I spoke, it's which one grabs you when you walk in the room. And the QN90, it just was very punchy, very saturated. It just jumped off the screen. And then even gaming on it, the local dimming wasn't 100%, but with the game bar where you can lower the black level, it made up for it and it looked beautiful. So I personally favor the QN90X.